you know, I think just some of the messaging with like the Riddler and Batman, like when they're messaging on the computer, I just thought that was a little bit draggy. Like there's scenes like that could have been, shortened down or cut straight up, to make this movie a little bit more palatable. Cause yeah, I thought the first and second act, like I said, were great. Like the way they introduced Batman, the way they, set everything up, the whole detective crime film aspect of this film is fantastic. But like when it starts divulging into the third act, like I said, and you get the whole sequence in the arena and the flooding and all of that, I was just like, it kind of sucked me out of this movie, to be honest. And I was just kind of like, okay, like now we're just like a straight up superhero movie. Like, I wish it was stayed as contained as it was, and really kind of.
And there was no way. I guess maybe not a plot hole part, but there was no way to stop the flood. So like it was just something that out of your control.
Right.
Protect as many people as you can, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But then they also, they played it off. The only way to kind of stay alive is to go to like the Madison Square Garden of Gotham.
Yeah.
Which backfires for everybody. Which I did not see that part coming. Like the
water getting through there.
The aspect of the Riddler's entourage was following was very, very similar to some individuals we have in reality these days, which of course being like social media focused.
Yeah.
Him live streaming the torture scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I see what you're doing here, Reeves. Okay.
Yeah, because they kind of try to because they kind of have, it's like their play on the Joker scenes, remember in the Dark Knight when he has the camera and he's like doing that, thing with the guy taped up and all. It was very similar. It kind of felt like a ripoff of that. And this film I think it's very much, it takes a lot from the Dark Knight and it takes a lot from David Fincher films. That's kind of my takeaway. And I wish there was a tad bit more originality in that sense. Like a lot of these scenes feel like they're picked up straight from that, or even plot points are picked up straight from that. And that's a big complaint of mine as well. So this, like I said, at kind of the beginning with the spoiler free review, is that like this felt very derivative. It felt very much like other films that are better
Riddler,
and
Riddler
tighter.
The Batman interview.
Right. The interrogation scene, like with the banging on the window and all that, like, it was a little bit different. But still kind of the same beats that we've seen in other films and, in other Batman films, but also just in other films, like it was very much like the what's in the box moment, from Seven, so it's like, a lot of that stuff just stood out to me as this film just kind of being a rebranding of those films, just slapping Batman in it, or just taking big parts from Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight. And, I wish there was just a little bit more originality in the storytelling. And I think the way they could have done that is by really leaning into what they did in the first half of the film, which is really make it this hard-boiled detective film where he's really just going and putting all the pieces together. Like that stuff is the highlight of this film. And it's really great. And sprinkling action sequences in there that help him get to certain places, similar to the Arkham games, where you have to go and you have to fight thugs and then you go and you find something else out. It's like that. Yeah. Like I wish there was more of that and a little bit less of the grandiose, finale. Like they could have made it a lot more contained and cut this movie down to a 2-hour, 10-minute movie instead of being a almost 3-hour film. Like, it's just too long, man. Too long for this kind of film. And I know that they, were like, like Endgame was a film I was fine with being that long because they had 20 films that built up to that. So I was like, okay, make this as long as you want to make it. But like, this has nothing building up to. This is a first film. And in terms of rewatchability, like, and I know The Dark Knight is a 2.5-hour film, but like, it's a tight film and like, every scene matters. There's just a lot here that just could have been left on the cutting room floor. But it seemed like they were scared that people wouldn't follow the story as well if they did that. So I think that's why they made it as long as they did. Because I think when they originally shot this and they showed a cut of this film that was shorter, I feel like maybe the studio and Reeves himself were like, I don't think people are going to follow this as easily if we don't make it a little bit longer and keep some of these scenes in there that kind of help, bridge the gap. But I mean, I don't know. I just think the finale was a little bit underwhelming, if I'm being honest. And the whole third act kind of, divulged into typical crime film, Batman type, the Dark Knight type film. So, took a lot of story beats and things from those films. So, I mean, that's probably my biggest complaint. But I again, like I said, I think this movie really shines in its, detective comics inspired stuff. Him being a detective, that's what Batman was originally, Detective Comics. That's what he was in. So
immediately had a good feeling when the Batman filled the whole screen for the title spot. I was like, yep, this is setting the stage. It's going to be whole other Batman we've never seen. Maybe, you could compare it to the Caped Crusader and those comics that are a little darker. Mm-hmm. And even the Arkham games, those would get pretty dark sometime with, especially like the Arkham Knight. Like I knew that one was I didn't play that one, but I knew that one kind of had a couple, plot twists, and I think even, more spoilers. I think Bruce Wayne dies in that one.
Yeah.
So kind of seeing where this played out. I like the ending. Of course, when you get the Riddler basically giving himself up because he's done everything he has, except, the bombs and then the people, entourage following him. Him kind of wanting to get caught was interesting.
Very much like Kevin Spacey in Seven. Remember, he purposely gets caught and then traps them all. So this movie rips off a lot of plot points from that. Now, the more that we talk about it, the more I think about it. But I agree with you, though. It definitely does, it's very different for a Batman film. And I appreciate them trying something different, but it still kind of feels like a lot of the same from just a film, aspect. But I think people that have never seen Seven, never seen... a lot of people haven't seen a lot of people have seen The Dark Knight, so that one's a little bit hard. But for people that haven't seen Fincher films, I think they'll appreciate this a little bit more than people that are fans of Fincher, like you.
I didn't look it up, but it has been 10 years since The Dark Knight Rises. So really, I mean, it is definitely good to see that they actually were like, you know what, let's give the people a different Batman, because Ben Affleck, no offense, love the guy. Not the best Batman.
Not the best, no. But
I'm curious. I kind of did forget that he was in the works of making his own movie.
That's what this was supposed to be.
Yeah, I do remember that kind of being the topic. I think it would have still played that dark, stereotype of Batman, maybe the older version of him, like just out of Justice League, stuff like that. But I think the young, fresh, really torn and shattered, scarred Batman that we get with Robert Pattinson. Shout out Rob, absolutely killing it.
Yeah, he was great.
He was great, and he wasn't super jacked either. I think they probably did that on purpose. They're like, hey Rob, maybe put on a couple more lbs, and he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna kind of keep it simple. Like I'm just a normal Batman. I'm no different than anybody else out here. I'm just trying to do what's right. And you kind of feel that with his armor. Like it definitely was pretty heavy duty.
Because he takes a lot of bullet shots. I mean, even the mayor girl, she takes the sniper bullet to the shoulder, and then she's completely fine. A few minutes later, she took a 50 caliber bullet to the, or no, I don't know if it was a 50 caliber bullet, but you see them load the guns.
It was a
huge bullet. I mean, that would kill you. You would bleed out from, especially getting hit in the shoulder. I mean, maybe survive, but she wasn't wearing any armor. She was just up there at the podium, and I like that she was like, I'm taking this into my own hands, and then she ends up getting sniped. I thought that was pretty
obvious. You're like this. She's getting shot.
Yeah, which I liked, because it was you're in over your head, just like everybody else is.
You
You're
really
you're not above this.
New mayor, so
yeah.